Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. So today we're going to do 2016, the best albums, the best rock and metal albums. So not a bad year. I've actually got 8 of my favourites, plus a few honourable mentions as well. So not too bad a year. So 2015 was great, and this is carrying on the same really. So without further ado, let's go from 8 to 1. So remember, these are all my top albums that I like, so none of them are bad, they're all good, but obviously we've got to put them in order, so 8 being my least favourite of the good albums that I like. So number 8, Primal Fear, Rule Breaker. So at this time, Primal Fear, I don't know, they're releasing a lot of albums, they do release a lot, and dare I say it, I think at this stage they're becoming a little bit samey. You know, they're it's always full on metal. I like the epic-y tracks a bit more. You know, the longer ones, the slower ones, the ones that build up more, the more with more atmosphere. I do like them more. But I think I don't know, they're still producing strong albums, and I think none of them are weaker than others. It's just that they produce so many. And, you know, bands can start to sound a bit samey, can't they? In fact, they've got a new album out this Friday. So I'm sort of got my fingers crossed that, I don't know, there's something different with it. You know, not too different because they're great at what they do. But sometimes you yearn for something a little bit more, you know, different, a tiny bit different, but not straying too much. I know it's hard for bands because they don't want to upset fans that love them. But at the same time, you just want something to grab you, you know. And Rule Breaker was good, but it didn't grab me like totally. The title track was excellent. We Walk Without Fear, Constant Heart, really good tracks that would fit on any Primal Fear album. But I think, you know, they bring out so much that sometimes you want something a little bit different, you know. But I'll give it 7 out of 10. It was still strong, but 7 out of 10 for a Rule Breaker. Right, number 7, Anthrax, For All Kings. So Anthrax, since Joey Belladonna's been back in the band, and he's my favourite Anthrax singer, I've got to admit it. I know John Bush is good, but I do really like it when Joey Belladonna's in the band. I just think it suits it great. And this is another album, very consistent. You know, I wouldn't even go so far as to say they're thrash now. It's metal, really. And it's really good. They're really good at what they do. And they're another band of, you know, after all these years, they produce some really great albums. Monster at the End, For All Kings, the title track, what a song that is. Breathing Lightning is great. Blood Eagle Wings. So, you know, they produce some really good songs. And I think they're probably even more consistent now than they was years ago. You know, the album's full up. There's no weak tracks. But there's no weak tracks, but it's not an album that's really top of my list, but I still give it 7 out of 10. Right, my number 6. I haven't mentioned this band before. They've had a few good releases, but this one's really strong, and that's the New Roses and Dead Man's Voice. If you like, well, you wouldn't believe it, but this band come from Germany, and you wouldn't believe it if you actually heard them. They are, I don't know, a bit southern, you know, a little bit like that. They just sound like, they definitely sound American. They do not sound German. It's a bit strange listening to them, you know, and stop thinking about they are German and they sound this way. You know, nothing against German. I love German metal. I think it's brilliant, but this doesn't sound like German metal at all. Have a listen to this. Great vocalist. It's real rock and roll stuff. If you like, it's really catchy at the same time, quite heavy, but fully rock and roll, you know, it is real sort of southern mixed with heavy rock and roll, if you like. It is great. And the singer's he can reach some real heights, you know. Great voice to go along with a great band. Heads or Tails is a great song. Dead Man's Voice, the title track. What if it was you, a slow song. So they know how to slow it down as well. They're proper, you know, a mixture, I'd say, of AC/DC, Bon Jovi, but when they were a great band back in the 80s, you know. And a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of Southern mixed in there as well. So a real good mixture. And I'll give that album 7 out of 10. My number 5, Tremonti, Dust. So it's a bit of a strange one, this one. This one shouldn't be as good as it is. This is sort of, I believe, like the leftover tracks from Cauterize, which came out the year earlier. So this was like the leftover tracks, if you like, the ones that didn't make it. And you wouldn't believe it. It is just, this one is up there with Cauterize, easy, you know, and stands tall with all of Tremonti's releases, without a doubt. And it's produced some of the greatest songs. And I've seen him play some of these live, you know. Once Dead, I haven't heard that played live, but that is one of, you know, it's one of those tracks that's, you don't hear much about, a bit of a deeper cut, I suppose. What a great tune that is, Once Dead. Brilliant track. And you've got a couple of slow ones on here, and when he slows it down, Tremonti, he does it great. Dust, obviously. I saw them perform that live. Brilliant. Unable to See, closing the album off. Real epic, melodic stuff. Brilliant from Tremonti. 8 out of 10. My number 4, Nordic Union and their self-titled album. So this is a bit of a, you know, one of those Frontiers projects that have been put together. Eclipse and Pretty Maids, a singer from Pretty Maids, and the Eclipse guitarist. And this was a great, great melodic, what you'd expect. You mix them two bands up, this is exactly what you would expect. And you know what, this sort of like, I don't know, this is sort of what you want Pretty Maids to do now. You know, this is a superb album. Even though Pretty Maids are pretty good at what they do, but you sort of want them to be more like this. This is more leaning towards the 80s Pretty Maids than the new Pretty Maids, if you know what I mean. And obviously, the guitarist out of Eclipse is a brilliant, brilliant songwriter as well. And The War Has Begun, Wide Awake. Just listen to that. If you haven't heard of this band, go on YouTube now, listen to Wide Awake. You'll probably end up getting this album. Every Heartbeat, slow song, brilliant. 8 out of 10. Right, my number 3, Alter Bridge, The Last Hero. This is the first time an Alter Bridge album hasn't made my top album of the year when it's come out. This is the first time I've, you know, this is their 5th album, I believe, and it's the first time I think I heard Alter Bridge not hit right at the top, you know, when they bring an album out. Without a doubt, I've been hooked. As soon as they bring an album out, I've been hooked. And it's the best thing, you know, that is out that year for years. And well, in fact, before the last album came out, it's the best thing. But The Last Hero, although I thought it was great, I think the expectations for this band for me are so high that any weakness, I'm just, you know, I'm just picking holes, and I shouldn't. Because any other band brought this album out, you'd probably think it was the greatest thing ever. But Alter Bridge, you know, they're so great. We have so much high expectations of them that any sort of weakness, you know, we sort of mark them down. But that's probably because they're that good. I mean, I think this album as well is, I'm into long tracks. I love it when bands, you know, do a 6, 7, 8 minute track. This one's got a lot on it, but they don't need to be that long. They sound like tracks that could be 4 minutes long. You know what I'm saying, where long tracks go somewhere and they take you on a journey and they're back and forth and they change a lot. It seems like a lot of the songs on this, they don't change a lot. They haven't got a lot of changes, but they're still long, if that makes sense. I think that's why I didn't get gripped with this album as much as the others. But saying that, like I said, if other bands bought this album out, you would be, you know, more than happy. So my champion, even though it's not thought of as one of the best Alter Bridge songs, it is for me. It means a lot to me. It was played at my dad's funeral. I chose it along with my brothers. So that one really means a lot. I find it hard to listen to the actual song itself, but it's a great, great song. You know, and it's really commercial, but it came out at a time when my dad was ill, and then it followed through when he died, and I just listened to this constantly. Like I said, I find it a bit hard to listen to it now, but it's a great tune. You Will Be Remembered is a brilliant track. I think that's about veterans or anyone who's fought in the war. It's their ode to them. Alter Bridge is ode to them, if you like. Twilight's a good track. So on this album, I like, if you can hear, if you know Alter Bridge, these are the tracks I've chosen. Are a little bit more melodic, a bit more like their older stuff, I suppose. I think that's why I like those tracks. But I still give The Last Hero 8 out of 10. It's still a great album, but just like I said, you expect so much out of Alter Bridge. Number 2, Michael Sweet, One-Sided War. So obviously Michael Sweet out of Stryper. He has been full on metal with his solo albums as much as he has been with Stryper. You know, every time he brings out a solo album, it could fit straight in with the Stryper album, the new stuff. And the Stryper obvious material is great, and this just fits straight in. He really mixes it up on the solo stuff though as well. But it's heavy, real heavy. This is proper melodic metal. Don't get me wrong. When you think of Michael Sweet and Stryper now, don't think they're not metal. They are. And on this solo album, One-Sided War is a great track. The title track, Only You, I Am. There's a slow song called Who Am I? Love it. Absolutely love it. And I'll give this 9 out of 10. Brilliant album by Michael Sweet. And my number 1, well, the t-shirt might say it, but I'm a big fan of Blackberry Smoke, and they brought out Like an Arrow. And this is another one. This is a strange one. This was like bought out. They only bought out an album the year before. Not many bands bring out albums this quick. And they just chucked this out. I think it's even under a year after the last album. And it's great. It's a bit more, I'd say, a bit more straightforward, a bit more in your face than their other albums. A bit more rocky. But it mixes it up just like they always do. They're a great band. If you haven't heard Blackberry Smoke and you like a bit of Southern rock, this is them. I'm telling you, these are great. When I talk about their more straightforward rockier numbers, they bash out Waiting for the Thunder at the beginning. It's a great track. The Good Life is a really good song. Looking at how his dad brought him up, his father brought him up and stuff. Like an Arrow is a great title track. Sunrise in Texas is brilliant. These are the real deal when it comes to Southern rock. You know, easily the band that I've turned to in Southern rock. And there's lots of them about now. But for some reason, these really get me. These are a great band. And I'll give Blackberry Smoke, Like an Arrow, 9 out of 10. So, that's all my top 8. A few honourable mentions. I'm just going to quickly go through those. Avantasia brought out Ghost Lights. Good album. Just like all the rest of them, really. With Avantasia, I've said before, I'm more into I know it's like meant to be an opera, a rock opera, all their albums, but they do mix it up with more straightforward metal tracks. They're the ones I prefer. So I'm sort of, that's why they never really get up there with my favourite albums, I suppose. Because they're not full up with tracks that are good from beginning to end, that resonate with me. Tigers of Pantang, an album, a bit like Praying Mantis. I've mentioned Praying Mantis before. Out a new wave of British heavy metal all them years back. Completely changed their sound. They sound really melodic now. You know, they fit in with all these melodic hard rock bands. That's a great album, their self-titled album. Back with a bang, without a doubt. Got Testament, brought out the Brotherhood of the Snake. Thrash metal. But they are doing it. They are spot on with their last 3 albums. And this is one of them. They're like... They're not extreme at all. The vocalist, you can hear everything he's saying or singing. It is like hard Metallica, good Metallica. We're talking Master of Puppets here and Ride the Lightning, that sort of heaviness. And then that guitar sound, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So Testament, they're one of my, there ain't many thrash bands I really like, but Testament really get me. They are brilliant. And you've got the Defiance, brought out an album. They brought out 2 albums now. Actually, this is the first one, On Frontiers. Another project put together by Frontiers, but it's a great, great album. Melodic AOR rock music. If you love that sort of stuff, you will absolutely love this. So that's it. 2016, not a bad year. Only 3 more to go. That's it, and then we're done for the albums. So, hope you like the video. Please subscribe. Bottom corner, red button. Thank you very much.